So I wanted to talk a bit about the woo stuff today, the out there stuff. I want to talk about because I'm trying to reflect a bit how I live my life and what's important to me, and see how it kind of resonates with other people, and maybe some people can just benefit from it. So I'd like to talk about things that I actually really enjoy. And talking about the woo-woo stuff, it's things like tarot cards, tarot readings, psychic readings, astrology, birth charts, all of these type of things. And if you ask most people, they're just gonna shake their heads and like, "Oh my god, what are you talking about?" And well, let me just preface this by I think every single thing I do in my life is somewhat related to just exploring reality. So it's everything somehow has an kind of from my mind's perspective, a deeply analytical nature, and origin. And so, if as a scientist you're really trying to explore how does life work with all its ins and outs, how does reality work? Well, it's fairly biased to exclude things, just based on your biases. I mean, of course, not everything's gonna ever resonate in your life, but um, at least be open to it. So if you haven't explored it, then you say, well, it's something that just doesn't gel or it doesn't resonate, so I'm not gonna explore it, and that's completely fine. You only have a finite amount of time in your life, so if it doesn't resonate, completely fine, but you cannot really build an opinion on it. You can just say, well, it's not something that resonates with me, but there's no way you can actually have an opinion in the veracity of or the value of it. So things like tarot, in all these things, I'm not sure when I started to get interested in it, but there was something mystical about it. There was something tarot. These tarot cards. I don't know how long they've been around, but the classical tarot, it's survived hundreds of years. People used it. It's very ancient, and I don't know. And suddenly, like, I don't know when it started. And by now I have like probably a couple of dozen tarot and oracle decks. Just because I love it. They actually look beautiful. So I love to play around with tarot cards. And also listen to quite a few tarot readings, like on and off. There's phases where I listen more of them, either on YouTube or on TikTok or things like that. And some that I really enjoy, and others, well, just scroll through. Um, but so how do you explore something? Let's assume you just an interest in tarot just bursts in your mind and you want to just explore it. So first, of course, you need to understand a bit what it's about. You need to learn the cards. I mean, it would be great to buy a deck, and then you just like go through the cards, and there's swords, there's pentacles, cups, and wands, and just go through it and learn what it actually means. And what I'd say is tarot is really great to learn or relearn um, emotional and energetic fluency, like just being aware of things, because all these cards have a meaning. Of course, different readers will have the different twists on how they read specific cards and things like that, but the cards have intrinsic meaning. And it's energy. You're reading energy. So sometimes interpretations can vary depending on what type of cards are coming out. Um, so you need to learn the basics, because otherwise you can't explore it at all. You need to learn the meaning of the cards and things like that. And you can do that. You don't have to actually buy a deck. You can just listen to You just go on YouTube and you just look at tarot readings, and then you see who as a reader kind of picks your fancy, like resonates with you. It can be a male or a female reader. And they all have their different styles, and there's definitely styles that will resonate with me, others that don't, and probably with you the same thing. So you can start anywhere. Just listen to a reading and see how it works. But then, okay, once you familiarize yourself with, okay, this is tarot, like pick up these cards and that's more or less the meaning, and then okay, different readers have a slightly different interpretation on it. Now, where the exploration starts is, and that's the main thing you need to pay attention to if you want to integrate or discard something from your reality. Let's assume there is a, like, tarot readings, or a particular person or a particular reader that really seems to be aligned with you. I don't know, you gel, like you would like to, like you would be happy meeting and having that conversation with that person. It's just like it's compatible, and they pick up cards, they give specific meanings, specific messages. Some readers, they give you monthly updates or just like anytime updates. I mean, tarot, to be honest, once it's not really in linear time anyway, so it's whatever. If you hear a reading, it might apply to your specific moments. But how you explore it is there something that resonates? So you listen to a reading, and how does it fit with your current life? Or when you started that reading, was there something on your mind? And oddly, in that reading, there is some overlap with your current situation, and like, oh, and just notice that. Don't act on it. Don't, just notice, like, oh, there was a similarity here, or there's a similarity there, and do that. Obviously, for exploration, you can't explore just in one go. You need to, even if it's just in the background noise, do something else. You have reading running, you pay a little bit of attention to it, but do it a few times, a couple of weeks maybe, and then see if there's, for instance, well, if you really align with a particular reader, and see how frequently the message really lines up with something in your life. Either it depicts what you've been through in the past, or it gives you like a good snapshot of what your current reality is, or suddenly it says, well, I see X, Y, and Z coming up as energies in your near future. And oddly enough, well, I plan to move actually, and I plan to look for another job, or I plan to go back and study, or I plan to do X, Y, and Z. And there's just like constantly a little bit of overlap. And if you do, like, how does that change your perception of tarot, of what tarot is? Does it, because for me, tarot is almost like a good friend, it's like a relationship. Every once in a while, I have the readers that I feel really close to, close to, like, energetically. Or some readers will say, well, my collective, sometimes I feel like, oh, without them saying, I feel like I'm part of that collective, because those messages, they always bring up something that makes me think for a couple of days afterwards, so I'm like, oh, I might be part of that collective. And then at some stage you realize how merged that reality is. You can't figure out anymore if what was portrayed energetically in those readings, whether it influenced you or whether it reflected what happens in your life anyway. You can't, it's like the overlap is so clear that there's almost a merging of the two, and you don't know who influences what, what's the cause, what's the consequence, and that's where the magic is for me. And I noticed this, and perhaps for you it's never gonna work. Perhaps it's you're never gonna find find anything in tarot that resonates with your life or that is reflective of your life, and it's completely fine. I'm just I'm just basically depicting my own experiences with that, um, but my scientific analytical mind couldn't discount it. It's just there's something deep in there for me, and I sometimes I read for myself, and it's odd, sometimes the cards play with you. Sometimes you have a question or you want to know you absolutely want to know something, and nothing comes out, and and oftentimes it's always for the same questions, and then you think, well, maybe I'm not supposed to know. And that's another thing, so if you, I mean, there's two ways to go about it. You can be passive listener, and you really resonate with some YouTuber or influencer that does tarot readings, or you buy a deck for yourself and you try to read, and you like, and you just, it's almost like a meditation, but you just shuffle the cards and see what falls out. And again, just observe with an open mind. Oh, that card came out. That means X, Y, and Z energetically. And maybe you're like, oh, what does that even mean? I like that doesn't resonate at all. At all. It's like nothing in my past. It definitely doesn't depict anything of the present, and I'm not thinking about this for the future either. So, and that's fine. Uh, but just explore. And if you decide that it's not for you, that's completely fine. But I explored it, and I came to the conclusion that it's again like an old friend. It's just there's something there, and most importantly, it makes me happy. It's almost like a relationship, an energetic relationship with, I can't even say what's on the other side. It's an energetic relationship with life. There's just a stream of energy or a channeling of something from another person or from the cards, and or if I channel for myself, so basically I'm using the cards to make something come through me unconsciously. It's like the shuffling is, there's nothing conscious about it. You're not going to choose the ones that pop out. And there's different ways also technically to, you just read what falls out, or you just open the deck randomly, or you're looking at what's at the bottom of the deck. There's different ways to do it, and again, choose what resonates for you. But yeah, so tarot reading I thought was really, really fascinating, and I can only encourage people to explore it. And I think there's a lot of history behind it, and I think there's a reason why. And like anything in life, there's also belief is part of it. So if you explore, but you bullshit yourself, and you actually don't have an open mind, you kind of go in there with the assumption that nothing about this is ever true. Well, you're just gonna get what you want, which is that it's not gonna give you anything. Same thing with psychic readings. I've had a few psychic readings in my life, and well, like it's a field that of course has also people that are dishonest and that just want to make money. But if you're really a true seeker, I believe that you will always encounter what you're supposed to encounter. So you will meet or come across the ones that are legit. And if you come across those and you make the decision to have a reading, um, you might be surprised. And what I'm also sometimes surprised at, just there's the exploration of the topic, and then there's also the exploration of your reaction to what's happening. It's also, in life is a self-exploration, because it's, at the end of the day, it's divinity observing itself or learning more about itself. So not only are you exploring a particular thing, but you should be always very much aware of what is your reaction to what is happening. And even at the beginning, I was surprised at the apparent bias that I had, because things were coming out and everyone will have to choose for themselves, what type of information that was impossible for a person to know, how deep does it have to go if they tell you that information, or if they are aware of that information and there was no way of knowing, how extraordinary does that information have to be, like how hidden was that information, or how surprising does it have to be for you to actually think this is real? Because I surprised myself. I'm like, things were coming up, and if I had to put a number on it, like, okay, there's 1 in whatever 10 million chances that it would have come up with that. 1 in 10 million, it's just a random number, but it's just like a high number. But I was still like, almost discounting it. Or my mind was like, I don't want to believe in this. This is not working. So at the beginning, you're like that, and it takes time. You need to release control. But things like this happen. Just notice how you respond to it, and that's sometimes it really reflects biases. Even if you say, I want to really try this, and you really, to your best of your belief, you say, like, I'm gonna go in with an open mind. Just write everything down and see how you respond. Whether a few things that they had no way of knowing, or something that came through, or somehow they interact with a past loved one or something like that, and they know things that they couldn't possibly know, the reader. The mind is still something, like I said in the last post, talking about another person, like the mind's a bully, it bullies its way through. So it's very resistant, it's very stubborn. But I encourage you to explore it, because it's part of the package for me, like whatever I integrated in my reality, everything builds on another thing. Whether you're talking about quantum physics, whether you're talking about anything, everything builds upon itself. So if you think about life after, if you believe in life after death, blah blah, well, it would make sense that that there is communication, or that if time is only, or linear time is only relative, well, there might be a way to assess a probability of something happening in the future. And then again, I never, so predictions, I think that's always that can be a recipe for disaster, because there is always free will and things are constantly in movement. And never forget that you are co-creating reality. So even if you go deep and you do psychic readings and monthly, yearly, or you want to have your prediction for next year, always think about the fact that you are co-creating. So something can always change. You might get a snapshot of what the energetic possibilities are, or where everyone's at, but this can also change, because if you think about the multiverse, and there are different outcomes, but all the different outcomes are happening simultaneously, where you might be able to switch timelines. So it's part of what is the entire construct of reality. There's not just one thing. So I'm never saying, like, put all your eggs in one basket. I'm thinking about, I love to explore all these different aspects and see what's in that for me. Does it make me happy? Does it give me expectation, and suddenly I have to wrestle with my expectation because I thought X, Y, and Z is happening? So think about what makes you happy, what gives you value, and what helps you in life. And psychic readings is definitely like a worthwhile exploration. But yeah, see how you go with them. And similarly with astrology, or birth chart ratings. birth chart readings. It's pretty out there, right? Like, okay, the specific positions of the stars when you were born somehow reflect your life trajectory. I That's crazy, right? If you look at it analytically, you're like, okay, that's completely nuts. Again, I invite you to explore it. Be cautious. There are fantastic birth chart readers out there, and the level of precision of describing life trajectories, characters is absolutely insane. I mean, that's my personal opinion. It is crazy wild, and I don't even know what it means. I'm like, okay, you have these planets, and there's alignments, and the aspects of the planets. It's not just like, oh, I'm this sun sign, and okay, this is my character. No, like the actual analytical part of astrology is insanely complicated. So it can go really, really deep, and there's no problem having a completely individual reading because it goes so deep into the aspects. Um, and yeah, I was amazed. Like, if you choose a really good reader, uh, I'll leave it up to up to you. You might choose not to do it. I did it, and I was, yeah, it's you're really interacting with something else. You're interacting with. You need to have such an open mind, but if you do, and you let that information sink in, you may realize that the information that comes through that person comes from a different place. It's like it comes from potentially your higher consciousness of, or your soul having chosen the circumstances that you're in, that you've been through. And it might also open your eyes towards the purpose of it all. If you're going into evolutionary astrology, and which looks at the evolutionary trajectory of the soul based on the birth chart and what you've chosen to experience this life. If you're truly an open mind and you just look at it, I would assume you will find messages in there that are sometimes weirdly uncomfortable, because you're like, oh, hang on. Well, first of all, there's a stranger that's telling me all these personal things, and that's making suggestions on things where, like, hang on, I don't want you to do any of that, or I don't want you to say any of these things, and how dare you. They're only the messengers, they're only the channel of some kind of information that is deeply ingrained in your in the choices of your soul. And so, yeah, my message to you is, how averse are you to explore these things? Just based on what the general population thinks of those things. They just astrology is like, well, I'm not looking at my astrology in the newspaper. This has nothing to do with that. These are the kind of things that have been passed on for generations, and it's highly complicated stuff. Um, I looked a bit into it, but it would take me a long time to study these aspects and the position of the planets to actually be able to give a reading. And so I have a lot of respect for the people that do it. But this is another aspect of my reality. Um, these things are 100% real. Every once in a while, it's the humorous universe that lets you go down a particular one of these particular things, and every see, this is how twisted my universe is. Every once in a while you go down a path like that, and then you get information that you act upon, which doesn't necessarily lead to always something joyful. It can always lead, it can also lead to something that's going to be a lesson. And then I tend to reflect about, well, there was a reason why I was attracted to that, because it led me to that lesson. I can only, my way of letting go in this life is just to release the need for an outcome. I go where my excitement leads me, where my intuition leads me. Like, oh, there's something there energetically. I can't put my name on it. I don't want to put a word on it. I don't even know what it means. Intuition, excitement, whatever. I feel energetically attracted to something. Let's put it that way. Or the path seems to lead down that way, and I can see my path only one step at a time. That's my thing. Like I'm not supposed to know anything. So I go one step at a time, I encounter something, and then it could be a dead end, or it could be a lesson, or it could be something where that opens the door to something beautiful. And I never really know what it is, but I that's my part of letting go. I just follow energetic clues and release the need to know what comes next, and release the expectation of that path is going to be beautiful only. Like there's still the odd obstacle to go past, but that's how I want to lead my life, because it's such a full life. It's like Albert Camus said, the French philosopher writer, to live life to the point of tears. And sometimes in this, where this intensity is, where the human body can barely hold the intensity of the life. And intensity in this aspect, energetically, intensity where there's no good or bad anymore, where you're just living. And all these woo-woo stuff, these woo-woo things, like astrology and things like that, have played quite an important part in my life, and probably will still going forward. So I just wanted to talk about it, maybe to remove a bit the stigma of it. You can be fully rationally objective and look at these things, and analytical. The only thing you can't do, you can't measure things except for what does it do to your life. It is a subjective measure that no one else can measure for you. You have to measure it for yourself. You're the measuring tape. You do these things and you empirically observe, what did it give you to follow that. No one else can tell you, well, why are you doing this? This is complete shit. Like, no one believes in that. Why? Or they just, it's frowned upon, or it's like, it's pseudoscience. All of that doesn't matter if you have a truly open mind. You are the only measuring tape that can measure anything, because you are your life. And only you can decide whether there's a delta, whether something changed, positively or negatively. You're the only one who can make that judgment on these things. And I mentioned a few things that were important in my life. I mean, there might be others, that you're thinking about exploring, and that's completely fine. Don't let anybody tell you what to think or integrate into your reality. You're the only judge in your reality. And other people's reality, that's none of your business. And just be free, live your life in a way that It's not other people that tell you how to live your life. You live your life like you want to. And whatever you feel attracted to, there might be a message there. Like, and it's release outcomes. It's not necessarily, oh yeah, I'm attracted to something that's going to lead to something beautiful. No, it might also lead to a lesson, but a lesson that you had to learn to ultimately progress in your life, in your soul evolution. So I hope I could clarify that. I encourage you to explore whatever you feel like exploring. Um, and and I'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this.